Okay, so we're back for another deep dive. Today we're going to look at some stuff from March 2025.
Sounds good.
And two stories that seem pretty different at first, but I think when we put them together, they actually start to tell us some interesting stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
So the first one is from the New York Post, and it's about a project from Alan Hamill, Suzanne Summers' husband.
Right.
And then the second one is about LSU gymnast Libby Dunn, who
And
is featured in this year's Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue.
Hmm.
So let's start with Suzanne Summers.
Huh.
So the New York Post piece is about a robot replica of Suzanne Summers that Alan Hamill has commissioned.
Wow.
And it's not just some kind of, like a wax figure or something. This is a robot
Okay.
that's powered by AI designed to capture her personality. And this is coming almost 2 years after her death in October 2023.
Right.
And apparently Hamill collaborated with a company called Hollow AI and Realbotics Corp.
Wow.
to make this happen. So what can you tell us about the technology involved here?
Well, I mean, what's really interesting is like the level of detail.
Yeah.
Right. Like they've used all of these like advanced language models, which are similar to the things that are powering chatbots, like we're seeing everywhere now, but they've trained them on huge amounts of Suzanne Summers' interviews and recordings.
Oh, wow.
So this thing can actually mimic her speech patterns and like recall events from her career and from their life together.
So it's like they're trying to create a digital and a physical representation that can like
Right.
interact in a way that feels authentically her.
Exactly. And it's kind of worked. The New York Post said that the replica told Hamill, meeting you was like a breath of fresh air.
Wow.
It's pretty wild stuff.
That's really something, but it gets even like more ambitious, right? Because Hamill wants to create new Three's Company episodes
Oh, wow.
using this AI, Suzanne,
Okay.
and potentially a John Ritter AI.
Really?
And so, I mean, what does that suggest to you about the future of entertainment? I mean, could we see this more?
I think so. I mean, if we connect this to like the bigger picture, right, it
Yeah.
really does make you think about how we consume media now and how that's going to change.
Yeah.
In 5 years, 10 years, could we see a revival of Friends with all of them as AIs? I don't know. It's pretty crazy to think about.
Right. And the thing is, I mean, like the article even mentions that the idea for this replica came from Suzanne Summers herself before she passed away.
Oh, wow.
So it adds another layer to thinking about, what people want their legacy to be, right?
Yeah, for
In a
sure.
world that's increasingly digital.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Livy Dunn. So she's featured in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue again this year.
For the third year in a row.
Third year, yeah. And she was photographed in Bermuda. And, this comes right after LSU's second SEC championship win, I think. So she's obviously killing it in her sport and really making an impact outside of it, too.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, what I find fascinating about her is that she kind of like embodies this intersection of athletics and social media and mainstream media. Like she's huge on social media.
Yeah.
And then her success as a gymnast like amplifies her platform, which then gives her, even more reach for things like the swimsuit issue.
Right.
Like it's a really powerful example of how these athletes are building these multifaceted careers.
Yeah,
You know?
totally.
It's not just about like being the best at your sport anymore. It's about so much more.
Yeah,
It-
yeah. And she had this really insightful quote in the article about what being in the issue means to her. And she said it's about being comfortable in your own skin and being undeniably you.
Yeah, I love that quote.
Yeah, and, in this world where digital representations are becoming,
Right.
more prevalent, that message of, authentic self-acceptance, I think feels even more important.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's the key contrast here, right?
Yeah.
Like on the one hand, we have this attempt to preserve a presence right through artificial means. And on the other hand, we have this real person who's actively shaping her own presence and her own message. And I think that really makes you think about where we're heading with all this technology.
It really does. It makes you think about what it means to leave a lasting impact, right?
Yeah.
Is it about, creating this digital version of yourself? Or is it about the actions you take and the messages that you put out into the world?
Right. And like which one of those is really going to resonate with people, 10, 20 years down the line? It's a really interesting question to consider.
And I think both of these stories, even though they're seemingly so different, speak to this really interesting, like, evolution of fame and memory in the 21st century.
Yeah, for sure.
We're trying to figure out how to hold on to the past and how to really represent ourselves in a world that's changing so rapidly.
Exactly.
So it's really fascinating stuff.
And I think the technology that we're seeing now, like with AI, it's opening up all these possibilities. But it also kind of throws into sharp relief the power of human achievement and
Yeah.
just like genuine self-expression.
Yeah.
Like what Livy Dunn's doing.
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff.
It is. So for all of you listening out there, I mean, what do you think defines a lasting impact, right?
Yeah.
As technology continues to blur these lines between the real and the artificial, how do we want to be remembered, and what aspects of a person can actually be replicated, and what are those uniquely human qualities that can't be replaced?
Yeah, it's a big question.
It is. It's a big one. Thanks for diving into this with us.
That's great.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.